Hello and good morning. Good day to everyone joining from Sydney and from Pakistan. I understand the Indians and the Europeans have decided to uh, postpone their participation to another time. Thank you very much for inviting me. A special thanks to Sister Reggie Valail for inviting me to give this talk. Today, the topic is the importance of emotional stability at the workplace. This is not a religious session. This is a practical psychological and behavioral session about how human beings keep their balance when work becomes demanding, ambiguous, or even emotionally charged. My aim is simple. It is to give you a clear map of what happens in the mind and in the brain when under pressure, and a set of tools that I will give you that are realistic, respectful, and usable almost immediately. Let's have the first slide. Why this matters. Let me begin with an obvious truth that we often forget. That is, at work, we do not only exchange tasks, we exchange tone, we exchange safety, and we exchange dignity. When emotional stability is high, people can disagree without injury, and repair is quick. When emotional stability is low, however, even good people can become sharp, anxious, avoidant, controlling, or even quietly resentful. And because this is an online audience spread across time zones, we must also face one modern complication, which is online communication increases misunderstanding because it strips away human cues. There is a quick chat prompt, one word only, if you like. What destabilizes people most at work is, what is it? I ask you, think about it. It is time pressure, miscommunication, unfairness, or personality clashes. Now you can think about it and you can write your own answers. Thank you. Notice these are whatever you've got on your list, whatever I've told you, these are universal. The geography changes, but human psychology does not. Can we have the next slide, please? There you are. Definition: intensity, duration, and recovery. When people say emotional stability, they sometimes mean a calm personality. That can sound like a verdict. So I prefer a functional definition. which is emotional stability equals intensity plus duration plus recovery time. Not do you get upset? That's not the question. But how intense does it get? How long does it last? How quickly do you recover? These are the questions. A person can be deeply sensitive and still emotionally stable. If you recover well, that is true. And a person can look calm and be emotionally unstable inside, silent, brooding, rigid, or even punitive. Think about it. Here is a line I like. You don't need to be emotionless. You need to be governable. Think about it. Next slide, please. Emotional stability is not suppression. Emotional stability is not emotional suppression. It is forced, it is not forced niceness being just niceness being put on. And it is not always agreeing. And it is not spiritual perfection. These are the things that it is not. What is it then? It is emotional governance. Choosing behavior that protects dignity, truth, and relationships. In a single sentence, feelings are real, but they are not always reliable. Can we have the next slide? The psychology of neuroscience, this is where the lecture gets a bit lengthy. There are two systems. Look at the slide. There is a threat system versus a wise mind system. A useful way to think about the mind is this. We have a fast threat system that protects us. That's what it is there for. And we also have a slower reflective system that makes judgments, considers consequences, and keeps us fair. In calm times, the reflective system takes the lead. In times of threat, however, the threat systems take over, and they are in the driving seat and holds the steering wheel. That is the threat system then. Work contains many social threats. You didn't think about it, did you? The threats that work contains are criticism, exclusion, being blamed, loss of status, or loss of control. And the brain treats many social threats as if they are physical threats. Let's look at the next slide. This is a little bit of education on neuroanatomy. There is a system, there's a part of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is there for fast detection. Amygdala is one of the brain's key structures for emotional processing, especially fear and threat detection. In plain language, it is part of the brain's smoke detector. Smoke detectors are there and they are designed to be fast, not subtle. Sometimes they go off because someone is making a toast. In the workplace, the toast can be anything: an ambiguous email, a delayed reply, a public correction, or a dismissive tone. When smoke detectors go off, we can become fast, certain, and unfair because the brain is trying to reduce the danger quickly. Let's look at the next slide. The prefrontal cortex. Well, that is the brake. It's in this part, the front part of your head and inside the brain. That is the brakes. So the good news, the prefrontal cortex is heavily involved in regulating fear responses. That is part of how we downshift threat and restore balance. So we can imagine this. Amygdala equals accelerator. Prefrontal cortex equals brakes. When we are rested, supported, and calm, our brakes work well. But when we are sleep deprived, overloaded, or frightened, the brakes will weaken. And that is why emotional stability is not just a character trait. It is also a psychological, no, sorry, I beg your pardon, not a psychological, it is also a physiological state. My mistake. Next slide, please. Now, there you go. This is the stress pathway. Fast and slow. Stress in the body has two broad components. One is a fast response and the other is a slow response. The fast response involves the sympathetic nervous system, which is, if you like, your fight or flight phenomena. That gets activated. The slower response involves what we call HPA axis. H for hypothalamus, P for pituitary, and A for adrenal glands. What does it lead to? It leads to the release of cortisol. Cortisol is, if you like, your adrenaline. In short bursts, the system is useful. It mobilizes energy and attention. But when it stays on for too long, it creates a predictable set of problems. What are they? Reduced patience, narrowed thinking, more irritability, more vigilance for threat, and more impulsive communication. So, if you ever ask, why did I react so strongly? One answer is, my nervous system believed it had to protect me. Next slide. What you see here is the connection between cortisol, which is adrenaline, as I said, and cognition. Research on stress hormones show that elevated cortisol is associated with changes in cognition and memory, including impaired memory performance in some studies it has been shown. We don't need technical details. The practical takeaway from this is when stress is high, the mind becomes less spacious. It becomes more black and white. It becomes less creative. And unfortunately, it becomes more confident even when you are wrong. That's surprising, isn't it? That is why emotional stability is a cognitive skill as well as an emotional skill. The next slide. Wonderful. That, what you see, is the window of tolerance. A very helpful concept is this, the window of tolerance, which is the zone in which we remain regulated, flexible, and socially engaged. When we are inside that window, we can think clearly, we can listen, and we can repair. But when we are above it, we become too activated. We become angry, anxious, and frantic. Conversely, when we are below that window, it is too shut down. We become numb, silent, and withdrawn. This is important. Some people don't explode, they just disappear. What is also emotional instability, just quieter. Next slide, please. Look at it. This is fear in disguise. You know, fear rarely says, "Hello, I'm fear." It disguises itself as many things: perfectionism, defensiveness, control, people pleasing, moralizing, sarcasm, withdrawal, and even gossip. Sometimes arrogance is fear waiting in a suit. Sometimes niceness is fear in polite clothing. A gentle, humorous line, perhaps, but it's true. At work, fear often speaks fluent professionalism. Emotional contagion, that is the next slide. Next slide, please. Emotional contagion. Mood spreads. If you like your moods, it spreads. Now, a key social fact is emotions are contagious. One person's tension can spread. I do beg your pardon. One person's tension can spread across the room or even across a WhatsApp group. If the leader is anxious and sharp, the team becomes cautious. If the team is resentful, leaders often become defensive. So, emotional stability is never only personal. It is ecological. It belongs to the system. Let's look at the next slide. This is demands versus resources. The job demands and resources model is useful. It groups work factors into demands and resources and explains how demands with inadequate resources contribute to strain and burnout. What are the demands? Demands are workload, far too much, role confusion, emotional labor, and time pressure. Whereas the resources are clarity, fairness, autonomy, support, and the time for recovery. If you take only one practical lesson from this lecture, when someone is emotionally unstable at work, don't only ask, what's wrong with them or what's wrong with her? Also ask, what's happening around them? What's happening around this person? The next slide, please. This is most important. Sleep and fatigue. Why breaks fail? Why do they fail? Let's speak plainly. Fatigue makes even sanes impatient. When we are tired, our capacity for inhibition reduces. We interrupt more. We read tone more negatively. We are less generous in interpretation. One of the simplest predictors of conflict at work is not ideology, it is exhaustion. Next slide, please. The mind is a meaning maker. The human mind is not a camera. It is a meaning maker. It constantly asks, what does this mean about me? What does this mean about my status? Am I safe? Am I respected? When information is incomplete, the mind fills the gap. Sometimes it fills the gaps wisely. Often it fills the gaps with fear. Let's look at the next slide. Same event, different movie. This is why two people witness the same meeting and walk away with two different films. One says, I was being direct. The other says, I was being humiliated. This is not because one is stupid. It is because perception is filtered through the person's history, their sensitivity, their stress levels, and power. This is why emotional stability requires humility. I may be right, but I may also be reacting. Next slide, please. This is thinking traps at work. A few common thinking traps cause workplace conflict. These are mind reading. She ignored me, therefore she despises me. Or catastrophizing. This mistake will ruin everything. Or personalization. The delay is about me. It could be even fundamental attribution of error. I snapped because I'm stressed. He snapped because he's a difficult person. You see the difference? When we catch these traps early, we prevent escalation later. Next slide, please. This is online misreading, tone missing. Online work magnifies misinterpretation because the tone is missing. A delayed reply can be because of time zones. It can also be due to overload. But the mind often reads it as rejection. Punctuation becomes emotion. A full stop can feel like a slam door in your face. If you want emotional stability online, you must become slightly more explicit, slightly more impatient. Slightly more patient, and much, much more careful about wording. Next slide. Power gradients. The invisible force, that is the gradient there involving power. Now we come to this important thing called power. Where there is a hierarchy, and there is hierarchy in all systems, in hospitals, in church, in religion, all sorts of places. Wherever there is hierarchy, there is an authority gradient. And when the gradient is steep, what will people do? They self-censor. They speak in hints. They become careful. Sometimes they become resentful. The power balance is not always intentional, mind you, but it is always psychologically real. Next slide, please. Psychological safety, which is the absence of interpersonal fear. Psychological safety is the shared sense that it is safe to speak up. It is safe to ask questions and admit mistakes without humiliation. And notice the word fear. Low psychological safety means high interpersonal fear. In fearful workplaces, people do not become liars, they become editors. They edit. Next slide, please. This is the slide on practical conflict map and its tools. What you see there on the slide is your escalation ladder. Escalation happens in a predictable fashion. There are several stages, at least 5. Stage 1, tension plus assumptions. Stage 2, interpretation becomes certainty. Stage 3, tone shifts. Defensiveness arises. One becomes contemptful, shows sarcasm. And stage 4, you form coalitions. Triangulations happen. Gossip starts. And then recruitment. You recruit others. And the last, final stage is rupture. then avoidance, blow up, and finally it results in a formal complaint. The secret is to intervene in stage 1 or 2. After that, it is difficult. After that, the conflict acquires a life of its own. Next slide, please. I want to give you a few tools from my toolkit. Tool 1, isn't it? A 10-second pause. Before you respond, exhale. Soften your face and ask, what happens? What outcome do I want in the next 24 hours? The pause is not weakness. It is you showing leadership over your nervous system. One quote, often attributed to Viktor Frankl, though the exact origin of this quote is debated, it captures the idea beautifully. Viktor Frankl was an Auschwitz survivor. He was a psychiatrist. And he said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to. What is the power? The power to choose our response. Remember that. Whether or not Frankl actually wrote it verbatim, the psychology about it is correct. There is a space, and that space matters, between the stimulus and the response. Next slide, please. This is the second tool I want to give you. Name it precisely. Vague emotion produces blunt behavior. So name it. Are you irritated, embarrassed, anxious, disappointed, feel that you're treated unfairly, or just a mixture of all of it and you're overwhelmed? When you name it accurately, you regain your agency. If you can name it, you can manage it. Do beg your pardon. Next slide, please. This is the third tool. Fact versus fiction. There are 2 columns. One is facts, which are observable behaviors, and the other is story, fiction. What I conclude it means. Many conflicts and battles between conflicts that happen at work are battles between the facts and the stories. We don't need to kill our stories. We need to hold them lightly until we can test them. The next slide. This is tool 4 I want to give you. SBI. Now, in India, SBI means State Bank of India. That's not what I mean. What I mean by SBI is situation, behavior, and impact. So SBI plus request. Use the SBI. I'll give you some examples. Situation. In yesterday's handover, X happened. So the behavior is, when the report wasn't shared, this happened, So what is the impact? It delayed my work and I felt exposed. then a request. Next time, can we agree that it is shared by 4 p.m.? Is that agreed? This keeps the conversation respectful, specific, and repairable. You understand? Next slide, please. This is the last tool in my toolkit. Repair fast. Repair is emotional professionalism. A repair is not humiliation. It is maturity. And the script for repair can be, I didn't handle that well, did I? Here is what I meant. Or, here is what I'll do differently next time. Remember always, the best teams are not teams without friction. They are teams with fast repair. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Conflict styles. There are 5 modes. In conflict, people tend to lean towards one of these 5 modes. Collaborating, compromising, accommodating, avoiding, or even competing. The key point is not which one of this is the best. The key point is, which do you overuse under stress? Do you collaborate? Do you compromise? Do you accommodate? Do you avoid? Or do you compete? Under fear, some people compete to dominate. Some avoid and disappear completely. Some accommodate and then later resent it. Some compromise far too quickly. And some collaborate very well. All this, the collaboration, the last best one, is provided safety exists. That is the key. Self-awareness is therefore half the battle. Let's have the next slide. 2 contemporary real lifestyle case narratives with happy outcomes. Case story 1. The message that detonated. Let me give you a contemporary example that many will recognize. A small international team is working across time zones. A deadline is approaching. One person in Sydney, Australia, messages the group. Need your part ASAP. This is holding everyone up. A colleague in Europe reads it at 6 a.m. and feels accused. They reply, copying the group, as per my last email, it was sent. Please check properly. Now the tone is set. 2 people feel morally offended. Everyone else feels the tension. Here is what a skillful management should look like. The team leader did 3 things within 1 hour. Firstly, stabilized privately. The leader messaged each person separately and saying, the tone has escalated, let's slow it down. Are you okay? What is your real concern? Secondly, she separated facts from the story. The fact is, the document had been sent into a different folder. And the story is, you accused me. You said I'm incompetent. So third thing they did was repaired in the group. The lead person posted one clean message to everybody. Update. The file was sent and is now in the shared folder. Thank you both. Let's keep this group messages factual and use private messages for misunderstandings. We are close to the finish line. Then they use the SBI privately with each person, not to shame them, but to coach them. When we use phrases that imply blame, it increases stress for everyone. Next time, ask a neutral question. And the outcome is that the task will be completed and the team will adopt a simple rule. In group chats, ask before you accuse. Something like, just checking, has it been sent? That beats, you didn't send it. That sounds accusatory. This is emotional stability as a system. Next slide, please. I'll give you a second case story. This is about public correction. Look at the slide. The second example. This one is about hierarchy. A junior staff member presents an idea in a meeting. A senior member interrupts and says, "No, that's not correct. We've tried that before." The junior person flushes, becomes quiet, and for the rest of the meeting contributes zilch, nothing. Later, they consider withdrawing from the project itself. Here is what a skillful management should look like. After the meeting, the senior person did something rare and powerful, which is a repair. The lead person said privately, remember, privately, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was too abrupt. I'm sorry. I was reacting to time pressure, not reacting to you." Then goes on to say, "Your contribution matters. Let's review your idea properly. It may need adjustment, but it deserves respect." And here is the crucial part. At the next meeting, the senior person repaired it publicly, without drama. "I want to revisit something. I dismissed an idea too quickly last time. That was my mistake. Let's look at it again properly." You see the difference? What happened? The junior person regained psychological safety. The team saw a model of mature authority, and the meeting culture changed. Disagreement stayed, but humiliation had left. This is emotional stability with power. The ability to hold authority without using it as a weapon. Let's have the next slide. Well, here we could have some uh, live exercises. You have two options. Option A, facts versus story, have a chat. I'll post a short scenario and please type 2 lines, facts or story. And the scenario is, in a meeting, your supervisor says, we'll revisit your proposal later, and then moves on. After the meeting, they don't reply anything for the next 24 hours. Is that good? Now notice the story becomes heavy very quickly. Skill is not to have no story. The skill is to test the story gently. Like, just checking, do you want changes before we revisit, or should I wait for your feedback? I can give you another option. You rewrite an email and I will show a sharp email, and then you have to apply the SBI principle to it. Well, this takes a bit of time. Let me close with a metaphor. Some people treat emotion like weather. It is raining inside me, so everyone must get wet. Emotional stability is learning to become a thermostat, not a thermometer. A thermometer merely reflects the temperature, whereas a thermostat regulates it. And here is the deeper truth. Emotional stability is not only about being calm, it is about being safe. Safe to speak, safe to disagree, safe to repair, and safe to be human. A final line from my favorite philosopher, Greek philosopher Epictetus, still carries the modern psychological wisdom. Men are disturbed, he said, not by things, but by the views which they take on things. So the practical invitation is this. When you feel destabilized at work, ask, what is the threat my nervous system thinks it is? What story am I telling? What would be a wise response? What would that look like in 24 hours? And what repair might I need to make quickly, cleanly, and without drama and without theater? Thank you all for your attention. You've been overly generous to me by listening. If you wish, we can take questions or we can do other things, some practice of de-escalation language. Thank you again, and I'm enormously grateful. Thank you for inviting me. And Reggie, you are a star, my dear. And the rest of you, wherever you are, in Melbourne, in Sydney, in Pakistan, or elsewhere, my humble, grateful thank you. Goodbye.